Thank you, Matt, for your video. You brought up some interesting points. I liked your point about leaving dualisms, classical philosophical dualisms behind. I think there's a time when it's appropriate to do that. I think that it can lead to a lot of wisdom. But I also believe that there's value in using dualisms as a way to organize thoughts and lines of thinking, and as a way of discussing topics. And you brought up an interesting dualism, which is the view, perspective from the outside in versus perspective from inside out. I think it's a worthy one worth talking about, and I would like to relate it to the issue of free will versus determinism. Often when two are speaking or debating the topic of free will, one person will be asserting a perspective of free will that is their own personal viewpoint, their experience of it, or the view from the inside out. The other will be talking about a free will from an objective point of view. Argument would go something, in a nutshell, would go something like this. Person A asserts that their experience of free will is very real to them. They have first-hand knowledge of it. It's undeniable. It's self-evident. Therefore, it must exist. The person coming from an outside point of view or an objective point of view would say something along the lines of there's no evidence, objective evidence for it. Science doesn't show that it can be the case. The laws of cause and effect exclude the possibility that in order to accept free will, you would have to go against logic and reason, saying that something can actually come from nothing, that there must be some factors that go into making choices. That choice can't come from thin air, something along those lines. So essentially, you have one person saying that subjective, conventional free will exists, and the other person saying that objective, ultimate free will does not exist. Now, of course, you see what's happening is the actual issue is there's no agreement on what is actually being argued. They're really missing each other's point. So if these two people can come to a mutual agreement that there are these at least two different perspectives and they're coming from different ones, and acknowledge each other's origins of lines of thinking, then we can discuss, take this argument to the next step. The next step being perhaps that an argument of value, that one approach might be more valuable than the other, and I can see, for example, the person coming from the subjective perspective saying that the subjective point of view of free will is objectively more practical because we do not live in an ultimate sense. We live in a subjective sense. We live in a conventional world, not an ultimate world, where ultimates are accessible and empirical and attainable. So I'm going to end it there. Actually, there was one more point, but I don't have the mental capacity to bring it in right now because I'm just too tired. But it had to do with the rift that you brought up, and science distancing itself from ethical concerns, and the rift being created between the subjective and objective experiences. And perhaps you can make some comments on that. But if we can avoid the pitfall of discussing two different perspectives of free will and thinking that we're talking about the same topic when we're really not, we would be making a lot of progress. So what do you think?